Okay, so this is the third and final video for solving rational equations, and we're still doing this by least common denominator. Okay, so solving by least common denominator. Ooh, if you can see that, that glare is horrible. All right, we're going to go back to number 7. So we did 5, 6, and 8. Now we're going to do 7, 9, and 10. Okay, this time our denominators look a little different. Okay, but we're still going to need a least common denominator. So remember, this is one term, this is one term, this is a quadratic that I can write as two terms multiplied together. I can factor an x out of both of these. If I factor an x out of x squared, I get x. Factor an x out of 4x, I get 4. Okay? So if you look at that, that has this x, that has this x plus 4. So my least common denominator, remember, it has to have every term in it. So no matter what, it has to have an x plus 4. And it has to have an x. So this denominator right here happens to be all of that already. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to take our original, if I can talk, our original equations here. I'm going to have 12 over an x plus 4. I'm going to leave a space and put minus 7 over x, leave a space, equals 22 over, and at this point you can write that denominator any way you want. Doesn't matter. I can leave it like this or write it as its original, but I'll just write it how I have my least common denominator written. Okay, so that was the original equation that we're solving. And now we need to make all of our denominators x times x plus 4. So this has x plus 4, but it's missing the x. So I need to multiply it by x, but I also have to multiply the numerator. This denominator has the x, but it's missing the x plus 4. So I need to multiply it by x plus 4. And I have to multiply the numerator by x plus 4. Okay, that last fraction right here, the denominator is x times x plus 4, and that is my least common denominator. So I don't need to multiply this one by anything. Okay, so remember, at this point, because all of our denominators are the same, if we multiply everything by that denominator, the denominators cancel out. Okay, so we can ignore that denominator at this point. So now let's solve. So up top, I have a 12 times x. 12x, and I have a minus, and I have to distribute that 7 to the x and to the 4, and it's a negative 7. So negative 7 times x is negative 7x. Negative 7 times 4 is a negative 28. And then I have my equal sign, and on that side I only have that 22. Alright, so let's solve for x. Let's combine some like terms right here. 12x minus 7x is 5x. And I'm not going to rewrite everything. That became 5x. Okay? Let's move this 28 to the other side. So I'm going to add 28 to both sides. So I get 5x equals 50. To solve for x, you divide by 5. So the 5's go away and leaves me with x equals 10. Now, we have to double check that none of our denominators would be 0 in our original equation. So if I have an x being 10, 10 plus 4 is 14. So that one's not 0, we're good. This one would just be 10, and this would be 100 plus 40, 140. So none of our denominators turned to 0, so that worked. Okay, so now let's go ahead and do number 9. Remember, we did number 8 in the last video. And again, I'm going to go ahead and factor this one, okay? So if I factor this, okay, it multiplies to 4, adds to negative 5. So I know they both have to be negative. Negative times negative makes positive. And if it was a negative 1 and a negative 4, they add up to negative 5, okay? So remember, these are different terms. Each are their individual terms, okay? So I'm just going to ignore this part right here. And now I have all my denominators. Let's write down our least common denominator. This first fraction has an x minus 4, so my answer has to have an x minus 4. I mean, my denominator has to have x minus 4. This one has an x minus 4 and an x minus 1, so this needs to have an x minus 1. And then this one has an x minus 1, which I already have listed over here. So my least common denominator is x minus 4 times x minus 1. And then if we write our original equation, I have an x plus 6 over an x minus 4. I'm going to leave a space, and it's minus 30 over x minus 1 times x minus 4. I don't need to leave a space on that one because I can see that's already my least common denominator, so it won't be multiplied by anything. And then it equals 3 over x minus 1. Alright, so let's see what we're missing here. So this first fraction, it has an x minus 4 in the denominator, but it needs the x minus 1. So I have to multiply by an x minus 1, but I have to do it to both the numerator and the denominator. This is my least common denominator, so I'm going to leave that fraction alone. This last fraction, the denominator has an x minus 1, but it needs the x minus 4. So I need to multiply by x minus 4. Alright, so now all of our denominators are the same. If we multiply everything by that denominator, they cancel out, so we can ignore all of the denominators. Alright? So now let's do the math here. We need to multiply x plus 6 times x minus 1. So if you need to do a 2 by 2 box to do that, you can do that. I'm just going to take x times x. I get x squared. I have a 6 times x is 6x. A negative 1 times x is negative x. So add those together and I get a positive 5x. 6 times negative 1 is negative 6. Then I have a minus 30 equals, and I have to distribute the 3 to both terms, so I get a 3x minus 12. Alright, so I can see this is a quadratic because it has the x squared. So I'm going to move everything to that side and then rewrite it over here. So I'm going to subtract 3x and add 12. And combine some like terms. If you notice, there's a bunch of constants right there. Alright, so I end up with x squared plus 2x, because I have a 5x minus 3x. Then I have a negative 6 minus 30 is negative 36, plus 12 would be a negative 24. And now that equals 0 because I subtracted all of those things from that side. Alright, excuse me. Alright, so let's solve from there. Sorry, lost my train of thought for a second. Okay, so I'm going to factor this. I have an x, I have an x, it's going to equal 0. Now this time it multiplies to a negative number, so one's positive, one's negative, multiplies to negative 24, adds to a positive 2. So I know the bigger number has to be positive to add up to a positive 2. Well, I know 6 times 4 is 24, and a positive 6 minus 4 is 2. So if I have, and I just wrote the opposite of what I said, positive 6 minus 4. Alright, set each of those equal to 0, and I get x is a negative 6, and x is a positive, I don't know why I'm writing again, is a positive 4. And then we need to see if any of these turn any of our denominators to 0. So, let's check the negative 6. Negative 6 minus 4 is negative 10, so that one's good. Negative 6 minus 1 is negative 7. Negative 6 minus 4 is negative 10. Negative 7 times negative 10 is 70, so that one's good. And then negative 6 minus 1 is negative 7. So negative 6 is part of our answer, for sure. Let's check 4. 4 minus 4 is 0. So right there, we got a 0 denominator. This cannot be an answer. It's our extraneous solution. So therefore, that negative 6 is our only solution for number 9. All right, let's try the last problem, number 10. Okay, so we're going to need to list our least common denominator. I'm going to write this one as 2 factors here. Multiplies to negative 10, adds to negative 3, that'd be an x minus 5, x plus 2. And as you notice, I'm not giving you really hard problems. Look at these, the x minus 5x plus 2. Hint, hint, okay? So, again, this is one term, so I have to have the x minus 5. This is one term, so I have to have x plus 2. And this one has both of them, so it's already good. Okay? So let's write down our original equation. We have x over x minus 5, leave some space, plus 2 over x plus 2, leave some space. It's going to equal 11 over x minus 5 times x plus 2. And that one is our common denominator, so I know that side's going to stay put, just like the way it is. But this first fraction, it has the x minus 5, but it doesn't have the x plus 2. So I need to multiply by x plus 2, and I have to multiply the top by x plus 2. This one has the x plus 2, but it doesn't have the x minus 5, so I'm multiplying by x minus 5 and x minus 5. This is my least common denominator, so I don't multiply by anything. Now, all my denominators are the same. If I multiply everything by those denominators, the denominators cancel out to 1, so they are gone. Okay? So now it's a matter of just solving this problem. So this first term, I got to take x times an x plus 2. So x times x is x squared. X times 2 is 2x. So I have x squared plus 2x. Then I move over to this one. I have to distribute that 2 to both terms. So I have 2 times x is 2x. 2 times negative 5 is negative 10. Then I have equals 11. All right, I see I have a quadratic, so I'm going to move everything to that side so I can factor it. Okay, so we have some like terms we can also combine at that time, but I'm going to move this 11 and combine like terms at the same time. So I'm going to write it over here. I still have an x squared. 2x plus 2x is 4x. And then I have negative 10 minus 11 is negative 21. 11 minus 11 is 0. Okay, so I can factor this left side. Multiplies to a negative 21, adds to a 4. So I'm going to have x plus and an x minus, because positive times negative makes negative. The bigger number has to be positive to add to a positive number. So I think about things that multiply to 21 and will add to 4. And that would be a positive 7 and a negative 3. They multiply to negative 21, but 7 minus 3 is 4. All right, if both of these, if you set them equal to 0, I end up with an x equals a negative 7, and x is going to equal a positive 3. Okay, so you can check them in each of the denominators here, but you can also just check them in your least common denominator. Okay, if I plug in a negative 7, I get negative 12. Plug in a negative 7, I get a negative 5. So I know negative 7 works. Plug in 3, I get negative 2, and I get 5. Again, none of those were 0, so my denominators aren't 0, therefore my answers work. Okay, so now I want you to go to the practice and finish it up by doing problems 26, 27, 28, 31, and 32, submitted in Big Ideas, and submit your screenshot into Canvas.